For 3 years,
I've waited
Sophia
3 years
Bennett
for
had been
this.
preparing to
an
marry a
honor,
man
Sophia.
whose face existed only in her imagination. She knew his name. She knew his family. She knew the promises everyone made about his character. But she had never heard his voice, never shared a conversation with him, and never even seen a single photograph of the man who was supposed to become her husband. To the outside world, it was an unusual arrangement. To the Bennett and Carter families, it was a promise built on trust. For decades, the two families had shared a close friendship based on loyalty, respect, and business connections. Their parents believed that a marriage between Sophia Bennett and Ethan Carter would unite two families that had always supported each other. Sophia grew up hearing stories about Ethan. She was told he was intelligent, responsible, and honorable, a man who valued family above everything else. But there was always one problem. Ethan Carter was never there. Years earlier, Ethan had moved to London to expand the Carter family business. What was supposed to be a temporary move became years of responsibility, meetings, and international commitments. The distance slowly became normal. The families continued assuring Sophia that one day Ethan would return, and when he did, everything would finally make sense. Sophia wanted to believe them. But deep inside, she carried a quiet fear. How could someone promise their future to a person they had never met? 6 weeks before the wedding, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Ethan Carter was scheduled to return to America. The families prepared a grand welcome, believing the couple would finally have the chance to build a real relationship before their wedding day. Sophia felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She was about to meet the stranger who would change her entire life. But thousands of miles away in London, Ethan Carter faced a crisis that threatened everything his family had built. A major business conflict required his immediate attention. Leaving London at that moment could damage years of work and put the Carter empire at risk. Yet canceling his return was impossible. He could not disappoint both families. He could not break the promise that had connected two families for years. So Ethan made a difficult decision. He asked the one person he trusted completely to go in his place. Ethan Reed. His closest employee. His best friend. The man who understood his responsibilities better than anyone. Ethan Reed agreed to represent him temporarily until the crisis was resolved. There was only one problem. Neither family had ever seen Ethan Carter. They had no photograph, no personal memories, no way to know the difference. And when Ethan Reed arrived in America, everyone believed the man standing before them was the groom, including Sophia. When she finally looked into Ethan Reed's eyes, she believed she was meeting the man she was destined to marry. Sophia Bennett expected her first meeting with Ethan Carter to feel uncomfortable. After 3 years of waiting, she imagined awkward conversations, forced smiles, and two strangers trying to build a connection because their families had already decided their future. But when Ethan Reed walked through the door, everything felt different. From the moment he arrived, both families welcomed him with excitement. They saw him as the man they had been waiting for. Sophia's fiancé. The future Carter family son-in-law. Ethan wanted to correct them. Several times, he tried to explain that there had been a misunderstanding. He wanted to tell Sophia the truth before she built expectations around a lie. But every opportunity disappeared. A family celebration interrupted him. A business conversation delayed him. Another moment came and passed. Each time Ethan tried to speak, circumstances pushed the truth further away. And with every passing day, the lie became harder to break. Because Sophia was not the person he expected. She was kind, thoughtful, and completely genuine. Unlike the wealthy families surrounding her, Sophia cared about simple things. She noticed small details. She listened when people spoke. She treated everyone with the same respect, regardless of their status. Ethan had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from him. But Sophia was different. She did not see his family name. She did not care about his success. She simply enjoyed being around him. The more time they spent together, the more Sophia felt that maybe fate had finally rewarded her patience. The stranger she had been afraid of marrying slowly became the person she looked forward to seeing every day. For the first time, her arranged engagement felt less like an obligation and more like a choice. But Ethan carried a secret that grew heavier with every moment. He knew Sophia was falling for someone she believed was her fiancé. And he knew that one day she would discover the truth. He reminded himself that this was temporary. As soon as Ethan Carter returned from London, everything would be explained. Sophia would learn the truth. The misunderstanding would end. And he would walk away. At least that was the plan. But plans became complicated when emotions became real. One evening, Ethan watched Sophia laughing during a quiet family dinner. He noticed the way she made everyone around her feel comfortable. He realized he no longer wanted to leave her life. The truth he had been trying to protect had become the one thing that could destroy him. Because Ethan Reed finally understood the impossible. He had fallen in love with the woman who was promised to someone else. A misunderstanding had started as a simple mistake. But now it had become something far more dangerous. It had become a love story built on a secret. As the wedding preparations continued, Sophia Bennett felt happier than ever before. The woman who once feared marrying someone she had never met now believed she had discovered something rare. She believed she had fallen in love with her future husband before their wedding day. Every small moment with Ethan Reed made her more certain. The way he listened to her dreams, the way he supported her decisions, and the way he treated her with kindness convinced her that their arranged marriage had somehow turned into a genuine connection. Sophia believed she was lucky. She believed fate had given her something she never expected. But Ethan Reed carried a truth that became heavier every day. He knew every smile Sophia gave him was based on a misunderstanding. He knew every future plan she imagined included a man she thought he was. Several times, Ethan decided he would finally confess everything. He would tell Sophia that he was not Ethan Carter. He would explain that he had only come to America temporarily. He would accept whatever anger or disappointment followed. But every time he looked at Sophia, his courage disappeared. Because he was no longer worried about losing the engagement. He was afraid of losing her. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter remained in London, trapped by the business crisis that had delayed his return. He believed everything was progressing normally. His family had not informed him about any problems, and he assumed his temporary replacement was simply handling things until he arrived. He had no idea that the situation had changed completely. The woman he was supposed to marry was developing feelings for his closest friend. And his closest friend was falling in love with her. Unable to carry the secret alone any longer, Ethan Reed finally made a decision. Late one night, he opened his laptop and wrote an email to Ethan Carter. He explained that something unexpected had happened. He explained that the misunderstanding had continued longer than planned. He admitted that Sophia believed he was the man she was promised to. And he confessed that the situation had become complicated in a way he never expected. When Ethan Carter read the message, concern replaced his calm confidence. For the first time, he realized something about the woman waiting for him in America. He did not know her. Not truly. He had agreed to marry someone whose voice he had never heard and whose face he had never seen. A strange feeling settled over him. Curiosity, confusion, and uncertainty. After reading Ethan Reed's explanation, Ethan Carter typed a simple request that would change everything. For the first time, he asked for a photograph of the woman he was supposed to marry. One photograph was enough to change everything. Ethan Carter had expected to see the face of the woman he was supposed to marry. He expected a formal picture, polite smile, a stranger waiting for him because of a family agreement made years ago. But when he opened the image sent by Ethan Reed, he saw something completely different. He saw Sophia Bennett standing beside Ethan Reed. And what shocked him was not their closeness. It was their happiness. The picture captured a moment that could not be easily explained. Sophia was smiling naturally, without hesitation or formality. Ethan Reed looked at her with a warmth that Ethan Carter had never seen from him before. It was not the expression of an employee completing a duty. It was the expression of someone who truly cared. Ethan Carter stared at the photograph for a long time. Something about it felt wrong. Not because of betrayal, but because he realized there was a story behind it that nobody had told him. He immediately contacted Ethan Reed and began asking questions. At first, Ethan Reed avoided giving a complete explanation. He knew the truth would hurt everyone involved. But after realizing the situation could no longer remain hidden, he finally admitted everything. He explained that Sophia believed he was Ethan Carter. He explained how the families had introduced him as the fiancé because nobody knew the difference between them. He explained that the misunderstanding continued because every attempt to reveal the truth became more difficult. For a moment, Ethan Carter said nothing. Most people would have reacted with anger. They would have felt betrayed. They would have blamed Ethan Reed for crossing a line that could never be forgiven. But Ethan Carter was different. Instead of anger, he felt curiosity. The more he learned, the more he understood that this was not a planned deception. It was an accident that became something much bigger. Sophia had not tried to replace him. Ethan Reed had not planned to steal his life. Two people had simply found a connection while trapped inside an impossible situation. Ethan Carter also noticed something else. His trusted employee, the man who had worked beside him for years, genuinely cared about Sophia. This was not a temporary attraction. It was something real. And that realization created a feeling Ethan Carter never expected. He was not only facing a wedding problem. He was facing a question about love, timing, and whether destiny could create something nobody planned. After thinking carefully, Ethan Carter made his decision. He would not handle this through messages or phone calls. He needed to see Sophia. He needed to understand the woman who was supposed to become his wife. And he needed to face Ethan Reed himself. Without wasting more time, Ethan booked a flight back to America. The wedding was only days away. And now, the man everyone believed had already arrived was about to meet the real groom. 2 days before the wedding, Ethan Carter finally stepped onto American soil. The man who was supposed to be the groom had become a complete stranger in his own love story. Ethan Carter had imagined many things about meeting Sophia Bennett. He thought he would feel nervous. He thought he would need time to understand the woman chosen for him. But he never expected to arrive and discover that someone else had already become the person she loved. From a distance, Ethan watched Sophia and Ethan Reed together. He stayed silent, observing the two people who had unknowingly changed the direction of his future. He noticed the small things. The way Sophia looked at Ethan Reed when he spoke. The way she smiled without hesitation. The way she felt comfortable around him. It was not the behavior of someone preparing to marry a stranger. It was the behavior of someone who had already given her heart to another person. And that realization hurt more than Ethan expected. He had always believed the arranged marriage was simply an agreement between two families. But seeing Sophia's happiness made him understand something important. She was not a responsibility. She was a person with real feelings. Meanwhile, Ethan Reed knew he could no longer continue hiding the truth. Every moment he spent with Sophia made the guilt heavier. He could not allow her to walk toward a wedding believing a lie. So he finally told her everything. He revealed that he was not Ethan Carter. He explained how he had come to America in place of his best friend because of the business crisis in London. He admitted that Sophia had been believing a misunderstanding for weeks. For a few moments Sophia could not react. The truth felt impossible. The man she trusted. The man she loved. The man she believed was her future husband. Was not the person she thought he was. Pain replaced confusion. She felt betrayed. Not because Ethan Reed planned to hurt her, but because the entire relationship she believed in was suddenly uncertain. She wondered if every beautiful moment had been based on a lie. Ethan Reed tried to explain that his feelings were real. But Sophia was overwhelmed. She had spent her entire life respecting her family's decisions, and she refused to become the reason their reputation was damaged. Even though her heart was broken, she made a decision. She would still marry Ethan Carter. Not because she was happy. Not because she had forgotten Ethan Reed. But because she refused to embarrass the family that had trusted her. For Ethan Reed, hearing that decision felt like losing her completely. The woman he had fallen in love with was choosing a future where he no longer belonged. The wedding was now only one night away. And while everyone prepared for the ceremony, Ethan Carter made a decision that would change all 3 lives forever. Sophia was preparing to marry one man while grieving the loss of another. The wedding day arrived surrounded by beautiful decorations, happy guests, and family celebrations. But behind the perfect image was a woman whose heart was falling apart. Sophia Bennett stood in front of the mirror wearing the wedding dress everyone had dreamed of seeing her in. The dress was elegant. The ceremony was perfect. Yet she felt empty. Everyone believed she was about to begin a new chapter of her life. Nobody knew she was saying goodbye to the man she truly loved. Ethan Reed had already made his decision. After the ceremony, he planned to leave. He believed staying in Sophia's life would only create more pain. He had entered her world because of a misunderstanding, and now he felt he had no right to remain after the truth had been revealed. Even though leaving hurt him, he believed it was the only honorable choice. Before the wedding began, Ethan Carter found him. For a moment neither man spoke. They had both lost something because of a situation neither of them created. Ethan Carter looked at the man who had become the person Sophia loved, and asked the only question that mattered. Did he truly love her? Ethan Reed did not hesitate. He admitted that his feelings were real. He admitted that Sophia had become the most important person in his life. He also admitted that he never wanted to hurt Ethan Carter or take something that belonged to him. He had only wanted to protect Sophia from a truth that became harder to reveal every day. Ethan Carter listened quietly. For the first time, he understood that this was not a battle between 2 men. There was no villain. There was no betrayal created by selfishness. There was only a woman caught between an arranged future and a love she never expected to find. Ethan realized forcing Sophia into a marriage without her heart would destroy all 3 of them. It would destroy Sophia because she would spend her life pretending. It would destroy Ethan Reed because he would lose the person he loved. And it would destroy Ethan Carter because he would always know he gained a wife who never truly chose him. The marriage that was planned years ago suddenly felt different. Ethan Carter had a choice. He could protect an agreement. Or he could protect the happiness of the woman he was supposed to marry. As the guests took their seats and the music began, everyone waited for the groom to appear. Sophia stood at the entrance, trying to control the emotions she could no longer hide. Then, only minutes before the ceremony started, the impossible happened. The groom disappeared. Every guest expected a scandal. Nobody expected an act of sacrifice. The church was filled with confusion after the groom disappeared moments before the ceremony. Guests whispered among themselves. Family members searched for answers. Everyone believed the wedding had turned into a disaster. Sophia Bennett stood frozen at the entrance, unable to understand what had happened. She thought everything was ending. But then the church doors opened. Ethan Carter returned. The man everyone had been waiting for walked inside calmly, knowing that his next decision would change 3 lives forever. Instead of taking his place beside Sophia, he walked toward both families and revealed the truth. He explained everything. He told them about Ethan Reed coming to America in his place. He revealed the misunderstanding that caused everyone to believe Ethan Reed was the groom. He admitted that Sophia had spent weeks building a connection with the wrong Ethan. The church became completely silent. The families struggled to process what they were hearing. They had planned this marriage for years. They believed they understood the future. But they never imagined that love would appear through an accident they never saw coming. Sophia stood speechless. The man she was supposed to marry was not angry. He was not trying to take revenge. Instead, Ethan Carter did something nobody expected. He released Sophia from their engagement. In front of everyone. He admitted that a marriage without love would never be fair to anyone. He refused to build his happiness on someone else's pain. Then he turned toward Ethan Reed and asked him to take his place. For a moment nobody moved. Ethan Reed could not believe what he was hearing. The man whose life had been complicated because of his mistake was now giving him the chance to be with the woman he loved. Sophia looked between both men, overwhelmed by the sacrifice Ethan Carter had made. She had expected anger. She had expected blame. She never expected kindness. The wedding that was supposed to unite two families through tradition became something completely different. It became a celebration of a love nobody planned. The ceremony continued, but now everything had changed. Sophia and Ethan Reed stood together, no longer hiding behind a misunderstanding. Their vows were not based on a family agreement. They were based on a choice. As they promised their futures to each other, Ethan Carter watched quietly from a distance. He had given away the wedding that was meant to be his. And when everyone celebrated the beginning of a new love story, he made one final decision. Without saying goodbye, Ethan Carter quietly walked away alone. Sometimes the hero of a love story is not the person who wins. Sometimes it is the person who has the courage to let go. Months after the unexpected wedding, Sophia Bennett and Ethan Reed were living the life nobody had planned. Their marriage was not created because of family expectations. It was created because two people found each other through the most unusual mistake of their lives. They built their relationship on honesty, trust, and the choice they made when everything could have fallen apart. But they never forgot Ethan Carter. Every anniversary, every family gathering, every moment of happiness. They remembered the man who had the power to take everything back but chose not to. Ethan Carter could have demanded his place. He could have forced Sophia into the marriage that had been arranged years earlier. Nobody would have blamed him. The families would have supported him. The agreement was his. The wedding was supposed to be his. But Ethan understood something most people never learn. Love cannot be owned. It cannot be created through promises made before two people even meet. And it cannot survive when someone is only staying because they feel obligated. After leaving the wedding, Ethan Carter started a new chapter of his life. He moved away from the expectations that had controlled his future and focused on building something that belonged only to him. For the first time, he was not living according to a family plan. He was choosing his own path. And eventually he found happiness. Not the happiness he expected, but the happiness he deserved. The Bennett and Carter families also became closer than ever. What started as an arranged marriage between two families transformed into a bond built on respect and understanding. Sophia often thought about how strange life could be. She had spent years waiting to meet the man she was promised to. She had imagined a future with someone she had never seen. But destiny had a different plan. The biggest misunderstanding of her life had brought her to the person who was truly meant for her. Because sometimes the person you search for is not the person you find. Sometimes fate changes the entire story before you even realize you are living it. Sophia waited years to meet her fiancé. But the man she married was the one who was never supposed to be her groom. And the man who walked away became the hero who proved that sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to let someone go.